For me, it's a very sad comment because I always thought he was one of the best. I knew him personally as a brother and friend. And I just want to say to all the staff members here that we who knew him, we who loved him, we miss him dearly. His counsel, his humor, his passion for Liberia. I do hope his family takes solace in the fact that Allah will forgive his sin and accept him in peace.
How are you faring on the political field? We are about 5 days to the end of the political campaign.
Okay, now, after having paid homage to my brother, let me say, it's all right. I feel fine. I feel very good. I've been going around talking to people. We've been dealing with each other, what people call the town hall meetings, meeting citizens at all levels, explaining to them our platform, our passion, and why we want to transform the society. So far, responses from our people have been very positive. I feel that the people will not be taken for granted. They must not be taken for granted. They're quite aware of what is at stake. So, on the whole, yes, I say we're very happy.
Yes, you're seeking the presidency.
Obviously,
not necessarily participating, but you're seeking to be the most senior man in this country. Do you think that you are going to get that position from your calculation correctly?
Well, you know, that's the benefit of democracy. We go in hoping that we can explain to the people. We feel there are many undecided voters. They are looking for solutions to the problems. Many of them are informed. They understand the history of people. They search through the backgrounds to find out what role these people have played throughout the years. I think, yes, I'm positive. I'm positive about Liberia. I'm positive about our people. And that is why I've dedicated my life, my entire adult life. I went to prison at the age of 17. And since then, I've never looked back in terms of my advocacy. I was a member of a very progressive movement in this country that dealt with the question of poverty and social justice, a movement that dealt with the question of the liberation of Southern Africa. I went into the Liberian People's Party conscious of the fact that we needed a transformative agenda for Liberia. So no, I'm all right. Yes, I'm participating. I want to ask the Liberian people to give me the privilege to serve them. I think I have come a long way. I've been Minister of Education at a very young age. I was 28 years old, appointed Minister of Education after the coup. Subsequently, I went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I've been political advisor for one or two people in the interim period, and I served Madam Saliba as a national security advisor for the past 10.5 years. It has been a learning experience, very, very interesting. Because you see, there are people who have this notion that my advocacy against injustice was based on the fact that I couldn't work with anybody. And I proved that they were wrong. When it comes to a matter of principles, I hold very strong principles. And I think working with Madam Sali for 10.5 years shows that, yes, I can work with anybody if I feel that I'm not being taken for granted, if my opinions and ideas are respected as I respect others. So it was not a question of just criticizing. It was a question of having a firm conviction as to what I wanted for my country. I gave a good example to the young people. At a very young age, 31 years of age, I was Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I think I did my best. What modest contribution I made, I had studied diplomacy and I tried to put it in practice. And when the military government decided that it would resume ties with, of course, a state in the Middle East, contrary against what the OAU had decided, I felt as a Pan-Africanist, as an African nationalist, that that was not in the interest of my country. Somebody was personalizing our diplomacy. And so I simply said, I cannot serve anymore. And I remember an elderly man came to me. Excuse me, I've been going through the dust. An elderly man came to me. He wanted to know why I had resigned as Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I explained to him. And what he said to me bothered me. He said, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Liberia, you resigned that senior position over some issue in the far Middle East? I said, no, it's not a question of the issue in the far Middle East. It's a question of principle. If I'm your foreign minister and you do not listen to me, you do not ask my opinion, and you go ahead and you do something that is contrary to what we had decided at the OAU, I have no more credibility. How do I sit in the OAU and justify a policy that I had sponsored, that I had promoted? And I said, no, find yourself a new foreign minister to promote this. I said to this man, if we do not stand oh yes, obviously. It was a question of the results of the time. The OAU had taken a decision that in solidarity with the Palestinian people, since not a single Arab country had recognized the apartheid regime in South Africa, not a single Arab country had established ties with the apartheid regime in South Africa, we ought to show that we were responsible and give our commitment to a people who were struggling for recognition. Some people argue that Egypt had already done that, but the Egyptians were saying to us, we have a different agenda dealing with this issue. What the OAU has decided is different. So my argument was that if we want to promote the cause of Israel, if we want to uphold our objectivity as a sovereign nation, let us take this issue back to the OAU. Let us ask the OAU to put it on its agenda, and let's debate. We can pursue, we can convince other countries that you follow us on this line because we think it is better. Once they did not agree, for me...
And your president at the time was?
The head of state at the time was head of state. That was the military leader, Samia Do.
Okay. We are in 2017. Dr. Fahnbulleh, I want to put this to you very quickly. Can you win the presidency in 2017?
Well, that depends on the Liberian people. Are you going to be alive tomorrow? You don't know. Am I going to be alive this afternoon? I don't know. You know, but I say to all those who want to listen, there are signs that point to somebody, some powerful that is. And let me.
Which thing?
Exactly. The National Election Commission, in its wisdom, looked at all the candidates and chose number 7 for Dr. Boima Fahnbulleh and Dr. Marcus Down. Number 7.
Did they choose?
I sure they probably did, or they. Okay, let's say. Let's say I felt.
Alphabetically.
Okay, it just so happened that Fahnbulleh, if there had been about 24 candidates, or even if somebody had come in the race who was, if you like, who was Emmanuel, then Fahnbulleh would not have been 7. Accidentally, Fahnbulleh fell in 7. But let me tell you something about 7. For those who are good Christians, the Holy Bible says, God created the world in 6 days. On the seventh, He rested. Just hold on, my brother. Listen to this. This is to all our religious leaders. You have to tell the children of God the truth. If you have seen the sign, God created the world in 6 days. On the 7th, He rested. God sanctified the 7th day because He had looked back on His handiwork. You go into Genesis, you see that within 7 days, the earth was covered with water. And then, in the 7th month, Noah's yacht, because you know when the earth was covered with water, they tell us, and God told Noah to put all his creatures, two of each in the yacht. In the 7th month, the yacht rested on Mount Arafat, the 7th month, rested. After 7 days, Noah decided to send a dove, a bird, that came back with a leaf in its mouth. He waited another 7 days. He then sent the dove out, and the dove didn't come back, so he knew the water had receded. Your independence was given in the 7th month, July the 7th month. I was born in July the 7th month. You know, so I say to myself, you know, well, God has His way of pointing out things. If you don't see the signs, you who are men of God, and you people who are religious, if you don't see the sign that 7 was put there for a purpose, will you reject such a person based on your prejudices, based on your misunderstanding, your misperception? Then you have to live with the consequences. So yes, I'm quite pleased. Myself, I'm a very spiritual person. I feel very strongly that, of course, the people are listening, yes. There are a lot of misinformation, disinformation, miscalculation out there, but I trust the people. That's why I have struggled for them throughout my life.
Dr. Fahnbulleh, I want to go forward and ask you, what's driving your interest for the presidency? Why are you interested in becoming president of Liberia
Put it this
in
way.
2017?
Put it this way, my brother. There are people who say you have been around for a long time. I've been struggling for a long time. I've been in government, I think, 12 or 13 years. This is the longest I've served in government. When I came from studying as a young man, I went to the University of Liberia to teach. The first time I worked in government was as Minister of Education, subsequently Minister of Foreign Affairs. And then I went into exile to do some work, and then I came back in 1991 and served for 9 months as an advisor to Dr. Amos Sawyer, left from there, and then I stood the election in 1997. I had to leave in 1991, I must make this clear. My first son, Fidel, was dying of leukemia, cancer, and I had to go. But 1997, after he passed away in 1995, I came back home, contested the election, and I went again into exile. Came back in 2005, and obviously supported a different candidate in the first round. The second round, I supported Madam Seli because I thought the choice given us was very clear for me. And so Madam asked me to be her political advisor, which I held for about 9 months, and I became her national security advisor. But you see, from the age of 16, when I had the privilege of growing up under a father who was a great Pan-Africanist, knowing my political history, I'm the grandson of Netisie Brownell, Councillor Netisie Brownell, who was Solicitor General, Minister of Postal Affairs on the Topman, Ambassador to Spain. He was a presidential candidate for, with former President Barclay. My father, Ambassador Fahnbulleh, you must have read the history. He was arrested in '68. I come from two very dynamic political families. I always felt my calling was politics. My late mother was not very enthusiastic. She wanted me to be a medical doctor. And I struggled with the sciences in high school in Sierra Leone, chemistry, biology, physics. But then one day in the laboratory, I had to dissect a rat. And as soon as the creature started shaking, I closed my eyes, and the biology teacher said, "Fahnbulleh, you sure you want to be a medical doctor? You can't even cut open a rat." And at that time I said to myself, no, probably I'm not been called in this direction. And then my father's trial came, and I witnessed his trial. I was in prison as a security risk. I left prison at the age of 17 after 3 weeks. And I said to myself, well, probably this is my calling. I have to go into politics, I have to go into advocacy and make sure I can come back and transform this society. Because things were happening that I didn't like, I didn't appreciate. At the age of 17, I'm in prison at the South Beach prison as a security risk. A top government official brings in a cook and asks the prison authorities to give this man 25 lashes. So the question, I was sitting under the almond tree, the question that was asked, what has he done? And the son of this top government official said, he broke a plate while he was washing the dishes, and my mother spoke to him, and he gave her cheek in a Liberian parlance, in the Liberian life, gave her cheek. This poor man was given 25 lashes. For me, that was an eye-opener. I then understood the depth of the injustice in the society. You can't take a citizen to prison because he broke a plate and order the people to give him 25 lashes. When my father came from court that day, I said to him, this society has to change. This is not the way to go. You only have to go back and read my speech, September 29, 1979, Sanekole, Nimba County. The changing Liberian society within the context of the African Revolution. I was clear in that speech what I wanted for Liberia. And I warned the government of the day, the Talbot government. Our people are marginalized. The people are being pushed aside. You must have this inclusion, give them a sense of belonging, let them know they are citizens of this republic. And I said, in closing, You must do this. The storm I see coming, if we don't hurry up. And then I ended by saying, if we don't hurry up, ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. We all know the consequences. So yes, the passion is to make sure that future generations do not suffer what our generation suffered, what you and others suffer. My transformative agenda is to put the people at the center of governance in the country. So I push popular democracy. I push what I call popular democracy. You see, popular democracy goes over and beyond the mere selection or voting for candidates once in every 4 or 6 years. It goes beyond that. And what am I proposing here in popular democracy? In the first place, I say, there must be 40% of the seats in the national legislature.
That will come to that.
Oh yes, okay. You have the time?
Yes,
oh,
we will come to
sorry
that.
about that. Sorry about
we
that.
will look at your platform and the agenda.
Sorry
you have.
about that.
We're still on the introductory aspect.
Oh, my friend, you go ahead. You have my whole
Yes, I want to ask my final introductory question before we go to the details of your platform.
Okay, okay.
I remember quite vividly in June when you became the standard bearer of the Liberian People's Party. I remember a famous phrase about describe it that way. Like you said, you didn't want any other appointed position in Liberia.
Yes.
At the time, you had just left the
National Security
Advisor
yeah.
position. If I were President Sirleaf similarly situated, I would have considered that statement as a statement of ingratitude.
No. Madam Sirleaf is a very intelligent person. We work very closely together. Madam Sirleaf knows my passion. See, because I show she has followed my activities as I follow hers in the past. And she knows my background. She knows what motivates me. No. I've done my service. And what I said here was that I've served as National Security Advisor for 10.5 years. I've been advocating for close to 40 years. I've been advocating for changes in Liberia. And what I was saying that, look, I started off in politics as a young man at 17. I'm 68 years old. I'm an old man. Going to be an old man. If I don't look that way, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go to nightclubs and all this stuff, probably is healthy for the body. But I'm saying that, look, at 68, if my message cannot reach the Liberian people, then I'll do something different. I probably become like Dr. Blyden, E.W. Blyden, who left Liberia when nobody could listen to him, went over to Sierra Leone. The British saw his potential and made him Director of Islamic Education. You only have to read his beautiful book, Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race. So I probably go off and go do some writing for the younger generation so that they'll understand. You know, when you work with somebody and there's mutual respect, there can be no misinterpretation of your action. I mean, you know, we were in this country. I guess Madam Sirleaf would say to many people, what motivates him is simply the passion to serve. He's the grandson of Leticia Branel. He's the son of Henry Du Fahnbulleh. Such men with that kind of genes are motivated by principles. I respect her greatly. I admire her courage. We were in the struggle together against dictatorship, against tyranny. She paid the price. She went to prison. Nobody endangers their lives simply because they want to be seen on front pages of newspaper. I think there are deeper forces motivating her. As a matter of fact, I work with her. I say to people, I pray that our public officials adopt this attitude. A woman who works from 7 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. She sits there day in and day out, going to conferences, meetings. I mean, you got to admire such a person. You know, there was a guy working in my office. Each time I called him, he had gone out. Each time I called him, he had gone on the 5th floor. This day I called him in. I said, young man, come here. How far did you get in school? He said, high school. Why didn't you go to university? Well, I decided to work. I said, you know something? You probably never went to university because you don't have the discipline of even sitting down for an hour. You know, Going through university takes a lot of discipline. The way you study. I said, you don't have any discipline. You are happier, you're very happy being on the different floors, going outside. You have to find some discipline. And this woman has that discipline. Who works 14, 15 hours? How many of these people who are making all the noise, calling on radio, talk show, condemning people, how many of them can even sit for 5, 6 hours in a chair dealing with issues, critical issues? That much maturity is needed. So I say no. She never thought it was a sign of ingratitude. As a matter of fact, I joked her when I was leaving. I said, Madam, you know my passion. My agenda is transformative. Yes, you belong to the Unity Party. But Madam, I do hope when you get into the booth, you get there to vote. You probably think of your national security advisor, who has been a passionate nationalist since he was 17 years old. We laugh about it. We are very good friends. We laugh, we laugh. No. She doesn't feel that way.
Okay, Dr. Fahnbulleh, quickly, your critics will say, I will want to be a little bit humorous about it.
My critics?
A man of your stature, of all the clout that you have, it only became known to us your interest for the presidency in 2017. Is that not a late entry?
No, you see, my brother, I say to people, human beings, God is a wonderful God. Human beings are far superior to the lower animals. You look at a dog. The master goes to work. The master comes in from work. The dog wags his tail, shakes his tail, and the master sits down. The dog sits under the chair. No matter who comes in again, that dog doesn't move. It only raises the head, puts his head down. That's for the lower animals. Human beings are not like that. Human beings are rational people. You say, I came late, but the National Election Commission, in its wisdom, set up a timetable. It said to us, you must register at so-and-so time. You will have to start campaigning at the 1st of August. This campaign period ends on the 8th of October. Elections will be held on the 10th of October. I was following the law. I was following the guidelines. I was following the regulations. There were others who were out there campaigning, others who had posters up, going around the country. Citizens of this country said nothing. They said nothing. I asked the question, for a man or a woman who refuses to respect the law when he or she is not in power, can you entrust somebody to uphold your law when he or she is given power? I'm a law-abiding citizen. Although I'm a revolutionary, I conform to the laws. I was going by the dictates of the National Election Commission.
Yeah, but you didn't necessarily need to campaign. But for example, the reason why I put this to you, and we look back, many of the people who come out successful in such political process usually enter 2 or 3 years ahead.
You can be so sure. I can give you an example of somebody who got into politics very late, like the president of France. Very, very late, and he won that election. I can give the example of probably the president of the United States.
Liberia?
No, but Liberia have to conform. It's a democratic society. You have to follow laws. And the law simply says you must begin to campaign so and so. Now, let me say something here for our people. A very clever device has been put in place by certain people who feel they can guide the people's attention, direct their attention to certain candidates. What they have done over the last year is to focus on X, Y, Z, 3, 4, 5, 6 candidates. They have bombarded the people with images of these people. That's propaganda. Look, I'm a student of propaganda. We know all these things. When you keep on doing that...
What is that setup that you're referring to? Who did that?
Oh, people around Liberia, they are public opinion makers. They are people who say they put graphs together, they do opinion polls. I challenge these people who come out with the so-called opinion polls, international opinion polls. I was National Security Advisor. I know the tricks being played here. I don't have to do it. I can sit here and tell you who owns which newspaper, which editor belongs to certain parties, who in the field of journalism is a partisan of what party. That's my job. I read the files. But be that as it may, that's politics. I do not believe any serious poll has been conducted in this country by reputable, credible polling organization. I go to NIMBA. I stand before different audiences. I ask the people, has anybody asked you your preference for president? No. Has anybody interviewed you? No. I go to Cape Town, I ask the question. I go to Bassa, I ask the question. So where are you getting the opinions to conduct a poll? And you put these graphs together. Look, it's very easy. There are people who build their fortune on this kind of bogus poll. It was demonstrated in the United States of America quite recently. Everybody said this and this. You saw the result of the election. So let us don't fool our people. We continue to address them, discuss the issues as they should be discussed, and we make sure that they are informed about the choices before them. And to go to the polls and leave them to the judgment. If these people are intelligent enough to be giving the polls to the ballot paper to elect the representatives, then for God's sake, give them that respect. Don't try to use them, take them for granted. That if you keep promoting certain people, you keep putting up these beautiful billboards, you have these long convoys as if you're president already, the people will be transfixed as, this man is the man. That doesn't work in a democracy. It does not work in a democracy because ideas are constantly contested. And that is why we are in the race.
Thank you, Dr. Fahnbulleh. So I want to now move on to your platform, and I want to start on the theme of economic revitalization.
Yes, yes.
The first point that you make is that a committee of experts to be appointed to undertake a comprehensive review of the tax system. Do you think that there is something wrong with our tax?
Oh yes, I believe it has been said over and over. I believe there are a lot of people in this country who do not pay taxes, or they do not pay the required taxes. It's obvious. I am convinced. Even many of your houses are not even numbered. Many of your farmlands, massive plantations, your gold mines, your diamond mines, do they pay taxes? Do they pay taxes? These the high income. What are the taxes being paid on dollars made in Liberia, which are being transported out of the country? What taxes are being paid on that? So there are a lot of brilliant people, and we'll ask for more experts from countries which are friendly countries. We'll look at the tax structure. We want to know whether it is not possible to move a budget from 550, 600 million to X amount of money. I feel that if we were to put in place a comprehensive tax structure, we'll raise more revenue to be able to put money into education, to put money into health, money into housing, etc., etc.
I want to ask about the rationale of giving milk and vitamin to students from grade 1 to 5.
Oh, it's very necessary. When kids do not eat properly, they are undernourished. It has been proven scientifically, medically, that the brain cells do not develop very fast. The kids in Europe and America are not smarter than our children. I was on Peace Island the other day. They brought before me a little boy of 3 years old. And this child who recite the alphabet backwards, with all you can say, he could recite the alphabet backwards. Just like you can recite the alphabet forward and I can. This child does it backwards. It's brilliant. The children in most African countries, you look at the hair, it's going red. They're malnourished. They go to school, they don't have vitamins, they don't develop properly. When they are sick, I mean, most of them, if they make it, then they are lucky because the immune system is not that developed. People who are undernourished. Look at the Ebola crisis. If you were to do a survey, apart from those who work in the hospitals, most of the people who died were poor people. I tried to see whether Ebola would have affected middle class, upper class Liberians. Not that they are so clean or so, although many of them are. But the problem is, even those who were affected, because the immune system was strong, they had eaten properly, that's just common sense. The bodies were able to withstand sickness. Many of the people who died from ordinary sicknesses in this country, if they were well fed, probably there will be some resistance to these things. So what we're saying, 1st to 5th grade, these are babies. They need to be given milk. When I was Minister of Education, as a young man, probably younger than you, we introduced the feeding program in the schools because we realized that a lot of the kids were not eating. They were not attentive because they were hungry in class. So we reintroduced the feeding program. We make sure that the babies who go to school from 1st grade to 5th grade, we provide milk and vitamins for them so that the brain cells develop. We want to create geniuses here. We want to create kids like that little 3-year-old boy. Because you see, when the people are not well fed, for each of the little boy you got, there are thousands out there who do not even reach that standard of intelligence because they're hungry. They come from very poor homes. They do not eat properly. That's all I'm saying here. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but I'll ask about other measures that you want to put in place to expand our economy. But my attention is drawn particularly, very quickly, under the health pillar. You talk about senior doctors and nurses with over 20 years of experience will be paid a minimum of $10,000.
They must be the highest paid, because they are the most professional. 20 years of experience, that's how you attract people to the field. The doctors are
$10,000
people get that, yeah.
Considering our budget.
Oh, what budget? How many Liberian doctors or senior nurses you have in your country? Just do a statistical analysis. How many? How many? How many? I said 20 years of experience. So how many do you have? And look at the budget for some of your institutions. Look at your budget. No, under my government, I'm saying that the highest paid will be medical doctors with 20 years of experience, senior nurses with 20 years of experience. And we hope we keep them in the system. We can then attract specialists who will come because the salary is good. I don't think I can pay a bureaucrat $10,000. Somebody who sits in a public corporation. What is administration? If you check, most of the people sit there, the underlings, the undermen and women do all the work. They do all the work. But the senior doctor, he's the one who supervises in the hospital. The senior nurse, she's the one who trains nurses. This is the reality. So you must give benefits to these people so that young men and young women do not just see politics as the way to make money, but if they want a secure future, they're probably going to study medicine. I wish I had gone that route. I was not timid in secondary school. I had continued with that. That wouldn't have stopped my political agitation because, you know, some of the greatest political philosophers were medical doctors. One of such was a man called Fahnbulleh, a brilliant psychiatrist. So many, so it wouldn't have stopped. But I'm saying we have to focus on health. And that is why in my platform, my manifesto, I've said that every village with 50+ people will have one qualified nurse with a little clinic to take care of the people in those areas.
Before I move to the next point of your popular power, how are you thinking, what are other methods or measures you're thinking to employ to expand our resource envelope?
Well,
to finance some of these
new
initiatives.
For instance, let's look at the mining sector. The mining sector. We have to put a lid on the exportation of gold from this country. The government must be part and parcel of this process. I've said that we will ask all companies with $500,000 investment in Liberia to list the company on the stock exchange. I think you know what a stock exchange is.
Yes, sir.
For our people who don't know, in these big countries, in Ghana, Nigeria, America, Tokyo, all the companies are listed on the stock exchange. You as a Liberian with a piece of land, you can go and use your land as collateral, get some money, you buy shares in these companies. So what you have there, Liberians become part owner of Metal Steel, Sandali, the hotel chains here, the banks, the insurance company. They are part and parcel of the economy. You do that, you get taxes from that. You look at the exportation of diamond from our country. Who controls that? Do you know how much diamond has been exported from Liberia? The question of gold. What's happened to our gold reserve? We want to be part and parcel of that. There's a candidate in the race who said that he's into logging. I said, but if the people gave me the privilege to serve them, I'm going to put you out of business.
That's the next point I wanted to come to.
Yeah,
you're thinking about taking over logging companies?
Because what do they do? What do they do in logging company? You bring chainsaw, you buy a truck, you cut down our resources. We're going to monitor that. Because you see, there are a lot of money involved in it, but the communities are not benefiting. There are programs in place. So we'll stop these cowboys, call them cowboys, economic cowboys. from just coming, bringing a chainsaw. It's like a man who takes a shovel and a digger. He goes to the mines, he digs. He's gambling as if the country is a casino.
But they're not doing it on their own. They enter into agreement with the government.
That has to be looked after. It has to be looked into too. That's my argument. We have to make sure there's reforestation. As you cut down trees, we can monitor that effectively. And I'm saying that all of these cowboys who come with the chainsaws and the truck, we can do it ourselves. We can get money. We can regulate the export of our logs. We can use the money in the communities, etc. You're talking about fisheries. Look at our fishing industry. The boats come, boats from Asia or so. They fish in our waters illegally. So we need to take control of that. You're talking about a beautiful coastline. And now let me say something here. My priority when I take over, if the people given the privilege of serving them, would be to pave all the roads in the southeast, because you have a beautiful coastline that you can develop with holiday resorts for tourists to come in this country. Go to Ghana. Thousands and thousands of black Americans come into Ghana to go to Elmina Castle, which used to be a slave castle. Okay? They go to see where the forebears stayed before they were transported across the Atlantic. This country, Liberia, was founded by free men of color. This country, Liberia, has a history of promoting Pan-Africanism. This is the home of Pan-Africanism. All these blacks who are interested in understanding the history of Africa, they want to come here. From Cape Town right to Cape Palmas, beautiful coastline. If we develop our coastline, tourists coming, we get a whole lot of money. Other countries are doing it. And let me give you an example, and don't be afraid of some countries' names being called. Little Cuba. They have a beautiful tourism industry. A lot of Canadians go there, Americans go there, British go there. They spend hard currency. Probably that's why they've been able to train some of the best doctors in the world. So let's look at what other countries have. Little Gambia has a beautiful tourist industry. A lot of our people will be employed, will get money from that. The goal? No, I don't think you should just export our gold from this country. If I am given the privilege to serve the Liberian people, I will call all these people, apart from the stock exchange, that we want to purchase 30% of all these companies, the government, to establish a sovereign fund where we put money in the bank, our people can get money. And you see, my brother, let me say something to you. That's a very rich country.
I want to understand, what is the rationale of government owning shares in companies and corporations?
And where doesn't government own shares in companies? When the Bank of Scotland was going to collapse the other day, do you know it was the British government that bailed it out? In America, well, Fannie Mac and Fannie Mae, when they were going to collapse. Government has the responsibility of ensuring that the economy grows in the private sector, that the public sector is developed. No government allows a key institution to collapse because it affects the entire economy. Thousands of people are unemployed. Is there a country in the world where when there's crisis in a major industry, the government doesn't get involved? Is that why people are afraid? They call it socialism. It's not socialism. It's common sense in economics. It's common sense. Let's assume you have a Sam Dabi that employs, I'm just giving an example, a Sam Dabi that probably employs about 6,000 people. And there's a problem, they want to close down. You allow them to close down? Do you know the multiplier effect if that company closes? The amount of unemployed in Africa, where we have the extended family relationship. When you take a man out of job, you probably affected say about 10, 15 families. They all depend on him. We are not the European and the American.
But we haven't seen that here. A couple of companies have been on the verge of closing down and no state intervention.
There's been state intervention. There have been. I know a case of Cocoa Park, and I know what government did in terms of dealing with management and getting people to pay the workers. Yeah. Government has done things. It's just that probably you have not been paid.
Better still have laid off people.
Yes. Better still get his own reason. Yes, exactly. But you see, what I will do, and that's what I say, don't be afraid of government participation. The government under me will get involved in this thing at a higher level.
You wouldn't permit them to close down?
No, I would not. If it's going to affect thousands and thousands of Liberians, I will not. I have no right. My responsibility is to the Liberian people. That's why they elected me. So why should I allow a major company or corporation to close down? Probably I can find the money or I take it over. That has been done in Britain, America, in Germany, in France. Most of the major, I cannot, for the life of me, imagine the French government allowing Peugeot to close down, or the Japanese government allowing Toyota to close down, or Nissan, or the Americans allowing Chevrolet, what you call it, crash like this major company, or the British government allowing the Bank of Scotland, okay, or Westminster, any of the major banks. That is the reality, my brother. That's why governments are elected, to protect the interests of the people. So don't be afraid of government participation.
Quickly on the point of popular power, I was heightened in my understanding. I had some anxiety though when I saw the proposal that you put forward to reorganize the legislature.
Oh, yes,
talking
yes.
about 40%.
They don't like me for that, but I always believe in popular democracy. What I'm saying...
But even 40% of seats to be occupied by civil society?
Simply because they are the most representative, they are the most democratic. For instance, a man comes from Cape Town in a little constituency, a little district. He wins with 1,500 votes. It's possible because in some areas there are 20, 25, like we are 20 in the presidential race. You have this man who goes there 1,005. He's a lawmaker. But the head of the teachers' union, he represents about 50 to 70,000 teachers. He's not a member of the legislature. The head of the Robert Tappers Association, he's not a member. The head of the Journalists Association, the PUL, he's not a member. The head of the Student Association, he's not a member. These are all Liberians, mass-based organizations. The head of the Doctors Association, the Nurses Association. You have people going into your House of Representatives, making laws that affect your people. They go there with over 900 votes. And you are leaving somebody out who is head of an organization of 50 to 60,000. It's very undemocratic. So we are saying, give them 40% of the votes. Let the people be represented. Now, if you were to have the head of the Medical Association as a member of the legislature, who is in a better position to discuss the budget for the Ministry of Health than that doctor? But I'm not going to stop there with 40%, and this is what we want to build a government.
I see you talk about the Senate.
I'm coming, Chief, I'm coming, Chief. I wish we had more time, You're going to have a situation where our people are then represented. The dock workers, they have the representative there. The rubber tappers, the drivers union, they select from among the group the person they feel is best able and most competent to represent them. You are broadening democracy, is inclusion. We go to the Senate. I say, under the government that I had, if the people give them the privilege, I will make sure 15 senators are elected as they are, and 15 traditional leaders are elected by the various counties. Why traditional leaders? The traditional leaders are the direct links between the people and government. In other countries, like...
But that then I have some confusion there, because if these 40% of the civil society are already represented... They are in
the lower house. I'm talking about the Senate. I would like to see 15 traditional leaders. Because you see, my brother, the traditional leaders play such a major role in the stability of society. The people listen to them.
But some of these traditional organizations are undemocratic, some of these positions are inherited.
No. That's what I say. Many of them are elected now in the various counties. You don't have one chief. There's no county where you only have a chief. There are different clans. I know about Cape Town, I probably know a little bit of Nimba. You have Manan chiefs, you have Geo chiefs.
There are cases where some of these positions are inherited.
Yes, they will be inherited, but then what we're proposing that the people select, you see, because you're going to expand it. Not because, this is not a monarchy, because you took work from your father. We're going to put it to a vote. The people will say, chief so-and-so, probably sub-chief so-and-so can go in there. We're going to do that.
So that would be, those who will be vying for that position will be people who are only chiefs to be represented.
For the 15, we want to do that. Yes, because you see...
Only that category of senators will be, those who can contest will be only chiefs. So you have to become a chief before you can...
Well, precisely, because they are traditional leaders. Isn't it interesting that now you have 30 of them, and most of them are people with money, etc.? You see, my problem with the exclusion of tradition.
But would that not be diffusing our culture?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Because now what you have them doing is to let them wear big gowns when foreign guests come, and they make statements and people ridicule them. No. In Sierra Leone, the chiefs are very important. In Nigeria, in Senegal, all these countries, the chiefs play a powerful role, and they serve as stabilizing forces in the society. You go to any African village, a Liberian village, you don't have policemen, you don't have soldiers. Who you think exercise that authority that keeps that village stable? It's the chief. That chief who is there. Traditional society. And you see, this is where the British were very successful. And not that I'm justifying British colonialism, but they were more successful in dealing with the traditional leaders for the maintenance of stability. The French and Portuguese, on the other hand, decided to create these elites, the little elites here, assimilados. Portuguese call them assimilados. Assimilated Africans, the French would call them. Probably that was the disaster in certain countries. Because if you exclude the traditional leaders from governance, you're probably excluding those people who do not have access to information, who do not live in urban centers, who live in little villages. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to make sure that I expand the democratic space. I'm not really going to stop with the House to have chiefs. I will recommend that every county has a local assembly. A local assembly whereby the people elect representatives from the clans, from the various districts, etc. They will have the right, to elect the speaker, have the right to elect the superintendent. So these people at the local level, they will use the two major languages in the area. Cape Mount probably Ba and Gola, Nimba probably Mano and Gio, Maryland, Grobo and Wulo, Crown, whatever you have there. This will be the system whereby the people can call a representative of the county to come down to the local level to explain government policies, to explain certain action. This kind of diffusion of power gave the people a sense of inclusion. Because I tell you something, you travel around this country, there are villages you go to, they don't know what is happening in Monrovia. Most of your stuff you're doing here, that's just here. The people are not aware. How do we get them aware? Is it only elections we put beautiful flag posters up? Those posters where we sit before the camera and they put powder on our faces, we take pictures. Some of us are not as handsome as those pictures now. Don't let us fool people. We're not. It's all doctor. You see, that's propaganda. You see a man who is very, very ugly. His girlfriend left him because the man is, excuse me, my brother. The girlfriend left him because the man is ugly. Anybody put his picture looks so fine. When you see the man, you say, ah, is this the man? No, my friend. Let's go. I was just joking.
I want to move to the point of disadvantaged groups.
Yes, my brother.
You mentioned clearly about promoting the welfare of disabled and physically challenged. And as somebody who has background in working with that category of people.
Oh, congratulations.
You write, the disabled and physically challenged to be given facilities to assist their entry into public buildings.
Yes.
And you say disabled and physically challenged to be given assistance in education and encouraged to participate in sporting activities. Those are the two lines that you highlighted.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm very serious about it. In fact, you see, I went to school.
Well, in terms of the wording, I would think that it's more passive in terms of promoting.
But that's why probably I will call on somebody like you. Somebody with experience, but my little experience. And these are just proposals. I mean, I'm not going to do it alone. The wisdom of no one man can be equated to the collective wisdom of the people. I'm proposing something. I want
so this could be expanded.
Of course, it's all subject to expansion. Nothing is in concrete. The only thing that doesn't change is probably God. In the beginning and in the end or so. But anything is subject to changes and so. But I went to school in Sierra Leone, and a classmate of mine was a guy called Frederick Kamara. He's Dr. Frederick Kamara now. Extremely brilliant, but he was blind. In terms of literature, I used to help him read some of the books, and he would be using his brain to put it together. In Sierra Leone, there is the Milton Magai School for the Blind. They have a lot of facilities for people who are physically challenged. And I think we want to do that here. Like making public places accessible to our physically challenged. It's done in several countries. How do they even get on the buses? How is there a platform where they can go if they cannot walk? So this is something because they are very productive citizens. I mean, I would like to see a situation where you have one of these people sitting in, probably as a minister in a key ministry, whereby people can go to him and he can use his brain and other facilities to make sure that he explains to people that his potential must not be underrated simply because he cannot see or he cannot walk. I think there's a lot we have to do there. Because look, there's Professor Hopkins in Britain. I don't know if you check. He's a handicapped, deformed, but he's a genius. He's a genius out of Cambridge University. So yes, these people have a lot to offer.
Dr. Fahnbulleh, I want to move quickly on the international scene.
Please do, please do.
Global issues.
Please do.
From my limited understanding of global issues in the last 12 years, I think I would, I don't know whether you have been national security advisor, so maybe you may know probably more than I may know. But I haven't heard relatively strong position of Liberia on many international issues. Liberia boys are not really hurt. So I don't know, how would you grade Liberia international performance at the level of the UN and the EU? And of course, the President said in Adventure, of course. Also very controversial international issue. I heard recently on the issue of the nuclear attack in Syria, and the President of Liberia made a strong case on that point, that Liberia has shown any use of chemical weapons already. But far beyond that, how would Henry Boima Fahnbulleh government, what position will you take internationally? Will you be more vocal on international issues? For example, what is happening in Syria or in Burma, for example, Myanmar, the Rohingya Muslim, for example. Will you take such position? Will you be making such position?
You see, the position you take as a statesman or a stateswoman must be a position which enhances or develop or aid to the benefit of your people, the interest of your people. That is why to elect somebody who has no understanding of diplomacy is to do yourself grave injustice. If you listen to Madame Sali very carefully, very articulate, people respect her internationally. She has made pronouncement on issues. Now, Liberia does not come out all the time to make expression or give opinion on certain issues. There are institutions, the United Nations, the AU, ECOWAS. Sometimes these decisions are collective after debates or so. A president who understands the pros and cons, who reads his notes, listens to his advisors keenly. He or she goes in there and he or she debates. The whole idea is to influence your colleagues. That's where you get respect. They don't just take anybody and make you chairman of ECOWAS. You must have impressed your colleagues that you understand the dynamics of the sub-region. In the Mana River Basin, this woman is highly respected. I mean, internationally, they respect her intelligence. You see, simply because, and I don't want to put any African leader down, simply because these people encounter other leaders who are very limited on these issues. This a woman who has read extensively. Our teacher and leader, Malemu Dr. Julius Nyerere, taught us a leader must be a teacher. He or she must be able to play with ideas. Malemu Julius Nyerere used to go down to the students once a month and exchange ideas with them, because no matter how young they are, you learn from them. You learn from them. And like we say in our language, once you open a democratic space, that allows the man of wisdom to hold his wise ideas. It also allows the foolish man to spill out his nonsense. That's democracy. If you have a system where the leader is well versed and understands, you get respect from the international community. A government under me, of course I've been Minister of Foreign Affairs, I think I will deal with all nations of the world based on Liberia's interests. What aids our people? For instance, my late father, during his trial, was accused of being a friend of the Chinese ambassador in Kenya in 1968. My father's argument was, how do you expect me to understand China's policy vis-a-vis Africa? How do you expect me to understand China's involvement in the Northern Line movement if I do not converse with the Chinese ambassador? At that time, to say China was bad. Today in Liberia, my father is dead. How many years later? The Chinese are building your ministerial complex. The Chinese are expanding your legislative building. The Chinese are building your roads. The Chinese are building your airport. I think my father was far-sighted, far-sighted. You don't exclude any country. Other people's enemies are not necessarily your enemies. If, for instance, the Cubans come to us and say, we want to give you 50 doctors. We say no because certain people do not like Cuba's policy. When the man is sick and goes to the hospital, you think he cares whether the doctor is Cuban, Chinese, American, British, or French? He wants to get well. That's all it is. So we determine our interest. If I take over, look at the security people. They got no barracks to live in other countries. Security people have beautiful barracks, etc. Our people don't have that. Our resources are limited. Now, if a country comes and say, want to build barracks for your immigration, barracks for your national security agent, barracks for your EPS agent. Oh, no, you Russian. No, you're Vietnamese. Don't come and do agriculture. That will not be statesmanlike. We evaluate what is good for our people. And we deal with nations on the world based on our perception of how our people can benefit from the interaction. Now, when it comes to terrorism, we condemn terrorism wholeheartedly. You don't need to keep quiet when innocent people are being killed by madmen who put suicide vests on themselves.
But very quickly, Liberia is a very close friend to the United States. Will you seek diplomat, for example? We don't have diplomatic relations with Russia. Will you do that?
Of course we have diplomatic relations with Russia. Who told you that?
Okay.
We have with Cuba. Who told you we don't have? We have with them. We interact at the United Nations.
I mean, currently, when we have an embassy in Russia.
It depends on, because you don't have the money now. Things are difficult. Your budget is about 550 million. That's less than the budget of many of the states in Nigeria. We have to grow the economy. We cannot afford.
I haven't seen any Russian consulate or embassy.
Oh yes, I think they are. Maybe probably the Russian ambassador to Ghana is accredited to Liberia. As the Liberian ambassador to South Africa is probably accredited to about 5 or 6 countries. That's how it goes, because you cannot afford to have embassies in all these countries. You don't have citizens or so.
But if your allies are loggerheads, how does that influence your foreign policy?
No.
Russia, for example, Russia and the United States are on opposing positions on Syria or many other international issues.
And how does that issue affect Liberia's development? No, I think Liberia's position is to sit with these people and try to harmonize things. That's why you have the United Nations. You see, you go to the United Nations to discuss. It is a forum for promoting peace. And Liberia and other third world countries can use the position as an underlying movement to say, look, can we see it this way instead of that way? I think they have played that role. Now, one of the most sensitive positions in any government is the National Security Advisor. Did I work harmoniously with all these people? I think I did, because I knew what Liberia's interest was. And my duty as a diplomat, which I've been, senior diplomat here, Minister of Foreign Affairs, I think I know how to address this issue. Furthermore, that's my area. My PhD is in political philosophy and international politics. So I know the limitations that we exist with. I also know what we can do in order to build our country.
To be very specific, I'm still trying to understand Dr. Fahnbulleh. Currently, America, Russia, and China are on opposite ends of the North Korean nuclear crisis.
Are they talking?
How
Are they talking? Are they talking, these countries? Was the U.S. Secretary of State not in Beijing speaking recently? My brother, diplomacy can be open and it can be covert. That's the whole idea. You don't know what negotiation. You have to read some of the beautiful books which have come out by former diplomats, former security agents. What happens on the ground? A good example would be the Cuban Missile Crisis. When the world was on the brink of a nuclear war, you probably were not born yet. I'm an old man. Why you had all the blustering at the United Nations, all the accusations, the Russians were bringing nuclear weapons, blah, there would be a war. You must read some of the reports of how there were backhand discussions by the late Robert Kennedy, who was Attorney General to his brother John F. Kennedy, how he was dealing with the Russians, how there were third parties. This is how diplomacy works. It's a very intricate thing, very delicate, very complex. What you see may not always be what is happening on the ground. There's appearance in reality. So you know, that is for minds of men who can grapple with ideas and handle complex
things. My interest would be, how would that impact your relation, for example, as president of Liberia, how would that impact your relation with the two countries, with the two powers?
Your duty should be to try to harmonize things within the confines of the United Nations, because you want to build peace. These are two powerful countries. You don't even have an aeroplane. How will you go and discuss with countries with nuclear weapons? What is your own role there? It's a man who cannot even afford farina to eat. He wants to talk about champagne and salad. My brother, let's cut our coat according to our size.
Thank you, Dr. Fahnbulleh. Very quickly, I want to deal with secession politics. And that's what we're doing international. Right in Nigeria, the Biafrans.
Biafrans? I know you have a Nigeria. There's one Nigeria. That issue was settled long years ago. They had a civil war. They decided that Nigeria.
They still want to secede.
You always have voices in countries. That's the whole idea of democracy. Who will express a particular opinion?
But should that right be respected?
It depends on the Nigerians. That's their country. I'm a Liberian. If you ask me if a county wants to secede in Liberia, I'll tell you what I will do. But it won't come to that. That's what you build nationalism. I think the Nigerians are intelligent enough, they love the country enough to be able to come back from the brink if there's a brink. But it's the right of the people to express themselves, the right of the government to sit and discuss with these people. I showed the political elite in Nigeria who would like to see a united Nigeria. It makes them stronger. Right in Spain, the people, exactly. But the government is saying, no, you cannot. Let's sit and discuss these issues. But you have the right to express yourself. This is, the democratic space is a beautiful space. People can talk. People condemn me. You have people, little boys, who are not even up to the level of my last son. They say, Fahnbulleh not going anywhere. That's not the problem. A democracy means that I'm going to express myself. Whether Fahnbulleh is going to vote for Fahnbulleh, allow me to express myself. I think I have ideas. You accept it or you reject it. As simple as that. But you cannot curtail my rights as a Liberian citizen of this republic not to do what I want to do as long as I keep within the confines of the law. I was National Security Advisor. Little boys insulted me, they called me kid and all. I laughed. Why do I bother with them? We didn't put anybody in jail. We didn't beat up people. We didn't have death squad because we're Democrats. We're revolutionary Democrats. So as long as the space is broadened and our people can move around and criticize, if they make the wrong selection, they have the opportunity in 4 or 6 years to then select somebody. That's the choice as a sovereign people. So let's respect the decision. And let's continue to build the democratic space. I would hate to see a country in my old age where people will be brutalized, people will disappear from their homes because they voice out the opposition to certain things. We will pass that stage. If we're enlightened and civilized people, then we must be tolerant of even the most nonsensical ideas. We have to be tolerant. And that is why when they say things about Fahnbulleh, sometimes I smile. It reminds me of a great philosopher. Because you want to ask a question?
Yes, I want to.
Okay, I will leave the great philosopher. I will leave the great philosopher.
You want to end that one?
Yes. You must be like the great philosopher. This great philosopher and his wife were in a quarrel. And as soon as he kept quiet, she went and took a jug of water and wasted it on this old philosopher. He said, I knew after lightning and thunder, that's always followed by rain. So some of these guys are like that. They're angry, very angry, and so they say things, they insult, they abuse. But you have to be tolerant. Understand the limitations of many young men who did not have the privilege. You know, I was determined to go to school and get a degree without a government scholarship. Without a government scholarship, right to the PhD level. I was determined because my father said to me, my last visit to him in prison was that you must study to the best of your ability. And so I did that, and I'm quite happy. So sometimes they condemn, they say things they don't know, insult Fahnbulleh, put misleading headlines based on an article I wrote in 2003. I read it and I say,
I want to close on this. Liberia and the United Nations,
yes,
the level of the Security Council.
Yes.
Will you be, under your presidency, will you be seeking a non-permanent seat at the level of the Security Council?
Oh, it's rotational. That is rotational. Your group, the African group, will elect who they want to go at any particular time. Now, I think the question you want to ask me,
the permanent
seat precisely, will
Africa.
Of course. I think Africa as a bloc should have a member. We have South Africa. We have Egypt, we have Algeria, we have Nigeria. These are powerful countries in their own right. Algeria and Egypt in the North African Maghreb, South Africa in Southern Africa, Nigeria in West Africa, just like Brazil and others in Latin America. Yes, I think the Security Council must be broadened to have the participation of these countries as permanent members. The world is a globalized village. You want our input for peace and security. So we cannot be excluded.
Maybe the military and economic power required.
But you see, we're a collective body. We are going in as an African bloc.
Okay.
That's what I didn't call a little country. I call big countries that can serve as a nucleus. South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Algeria, they're big in their own right. In terms of the third world, these are big countries like Brazil. So I think, yes, we ought to be given seats. We decide who goes there as a permanent member at any time. It is our right, but you must give Africa a seat. That did the Security Council. That was 1945, after the Second World War, when the major powers were up. And you know, the Chinese, as a little power, maintained the seat on the Security Council until China became a member of the United Nations. So that was determined by the major powers after the defeat of fascism and Nazism in Egypt. And obviously, we've come a long way since 1945.
Dr. Fahnbulleh, thank you very much. I have to open the telephone lines.
Please do. I like to hear from my brothers and sisters.
077010005, 10770501501. My name is Matthew Young, our special studio guest. Our prime guest has been Dr. Henry Boima Fahnbulleh. He's the presidential candidate of Liberian People Party. Good morning. Good morning, quickly. Let's do 30 seconds or 45 seconds so more people can collect.
I would like to say a very big thank you to the founder for taking up the present time coming here to talk about and I would like to make this clear. This is not time for the popularity. We are tired with talking for over the past talking on Monday to transform the life of the Liberian people. We think that the family has nothing to offer. Nothing matters because he has served as good advisor to the president.
Thank you very much. I think I will have the privilege so that our conversation cannot be diffused by a very poor call. So sorry to say that, but I have the privilege to do that. If you can contribute anything to the discussion, it's better for you not to call, for you to stay. Good morning.
Good morning, Matthew. Good morning to Dr. Fahnbulleh. My name is Sukuma Dagwet Bility. I join you from Ghana's. Let me appreciate Dr. Fahnbulleh for the powerful deliberation. But I want to know whether he regrets his struggles during the issue of or the progressive struggle where our people, our grandfathers and fathers were, marginalized by them.
Thank you very much. The question is straightforward. Doc, you taking some notes?
I
you still remember?
It's all right, I remember. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, yes.
Yes, good morning, Matthew Young people. Good morning, got a Fahnbulleh. This is Fahnbulleh, and I call from Boima. Good morning.
Yeah,
Matthew, let me comment that, and I said it all splendid person. And I put that, I think this is a historical man, right? When it comes to the military process in this country, right? That put out one for all of the children that they are enjoying this country, right? So we need respect, self-respect, right? This man has helped a lot of young people in this country when it comes to most battery beauty, freedom of self, right?
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Matthew.
Yeah, Pony, quickly.
Matthew, thank you. My name is Pony, like you regularly said, and I speak from Bourgeois Island, a very quiet Bourgeois Island. I want to appreciate you, and I really want to thank you for historicalizing. I took you from the point that has to do with your decentralization. I think that's excellent. That's wonderful. Having the civil society and having the chief inclusive in government in terms of decision making. I really do appreciate you. However, why are you not playing the consultancy role or playing the advisory role in helping? And Matthew asked this question, wanting to be president. Yes, I do agree. You understand our country plan, but don't you think you are the appropriate person at the wrong time?
Thank you. He will respond if he. I'm sure he will. I'll take one or two more and close here. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, now ready. Good morning. Good morning. Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, morning.
This is Abraham Dolly.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, first, I just want to commend Dr. Fahnbulleh. And the way he is one person that has really transformed this country within the next 6 years. And it's about time that all Nigerians vote for Dr. Fahnbulleh so that we can give the Nigerians new hope of buoyancy and transformation.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, morning. Let's hear you.
I'm a man of big body. Let me say thanks to that, but I have two specific concerns. I want to ask Dr. Fahnbulleh, what particular role did he play as a security advisor in the study capacity at West Point and the CDC riot that November 7th?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, very much.
Yeah, good morning.
This is Satya.
Go ahead.
Let me say absolute good morning to the State Political Leader, teacher, and doctor of modern political thought. That will say that we got no regret of following you. Even those who are on the other side will realize a few hours from now that they make their own decision. That is why we chose ideas for young people.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Austin, good morning.
Okay, thank you for the show. I just want to follow clarity from Dr. Fahnbulleh. Back before the 2005 election, there was this slogan or spirit ascribed to Dr. Fahnbulleh by George Weah. I want him to clarify whether he can say 2005 that George Weah used his leg to make money and used his head to misuse it. I also want to comment about George Weah's competence in becoming president.
Okay, thank you, Austin. Doc, I'm sure we...
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. I will address those questions. You know, the Greeks were very interesting people in dealing with democracy. There were those they allowed to participate in democratic discussions, they called them citizens. And there were others who they felt were not competent enough to address issues. They did not have informed opinions. And those were excluded from the democratic debate. But societies have come a long way through the years. We allow anybody to say what they want to say. We allow people to express themselves. Some people feel this is too much, you know. It's like taking an elephant and putting it in a room with a mouse. And so we have people calling, and you say to somebody who has served his country, you have nothing to contribute. What have you got to contribute? Have you managed to even pass your WAEC or BSc at the University of Liberia? We have to be very careful of how people call on these shows and just make flippant statements. Anyway, let me start first. The brother who say, what role did I play as National Security Advisor in the tragedy in West Point and the unfortunate incident at CD's headquarters? Now, young man, as National Security Advisor, I've just left that job. I'm not at liberty to discuss the inner workings, discussions that usually occur at the National Security Secretariat. We took oath to maintain certain secrecy. I can tell you, I think you are very young. You wait until the files are open, and then you'll see what role I played, what position I took. In Britain, the United States, Germany, France, the developed countries, former security officers and agents are not allowed to disclose certain things for 30 years. They have a reason for that. I will not sit here and discuss security matters. I'm sorry for that, but as the nature of the profession I found myself in, and I intend to abide by the oath I took as a former security officer of Liberia. A brother asked the question, why are you not a consultant? And I say, the Americans are very interesting people. The Americans have a saying on the decks of the president, the buck stops here. It's the president who can use his wit, his ideas, his passion to transform society. Other people, yes, I've been a consultant, I can be a consultant, but if there is a direction, it is always good to have somebody who has the commitment, the conviction. If people are going to war, why don't they say leave everything to a captain or a lieutenant? Why don't they say that? Why do they get a general to promote war? Or in a hospital, I hear a lot of people say, oh, you're finished, you got to do this. If a child is sick, your child is sick, and you take that child to the hospital, I show you ask for the most experienced doctor because you want your child to live. I want my country to survive. I want my country to progress. So I throw myself forward, not to serve as a consultant, but to serve as the ultimate decision maker in conjunction with the people. I would tell them what I need to do. And so that's why I came into the race. The young man asks, and obviously he has the right to ask, about an article I wrote. It was in 2003, not 2005. 2003, I wrote an article where I mentioned money. Because I did not even know this young man, his politics, but a brother had approached me in Nigeria and said that this man was the best person because he had money. And I said, no, you can't say that. Our country is not for sale. If this man has no experience in politics, you can gamble because you don't like Charles Taylor. And I wrote an article. It was an article I wrote where I said, my direct quotation, you want this man, he's a soccer dolt, D-O-L-T. That means a man who just play football. He's a soccer dolt. He doesn't understand anything about nation building. 2003. It was the same question asked me by a journalist who came and said, oh yes, you said this in 2003. I said, what I said in 2003, I said I'm not somebody to retract if I believe at that time. Now, the one he asked me again, what do you think about his competence? I didn't work with him. I don't know him. He's a nice young man.
You mean George Williams?
Yes, I don't know him. I never sat in the Senate with him. I don't know his politics. Like so many people, I don't know the politics. So you're asking somebody to comment. I say this country ought to be handled by experienced people who understand the intricacies of governance, understand the intricacies of economic transformation, understand how to include the people in decision making. I stand firmly by that decision. I lived in Britain for a long time. You got some of the most successful footballers, David Beckham, Fred Lampard, and all these people, multi-millionaires. But for the life of me, I cannot see these people saying to the British people, I want to lead you. Because it's a different situation. In Nigeria, You got all these Nakukano, Taribo, Western Ghana, Ibili Pele, Tony Yeboah, so on and so forth. They stick to their profession. You see, this is the tragedy. I am not a medical doctor. If somebody is involved in an accident in my presence, it would be stupid of me to even try to perform surgery on that person. I mean, I will be killing the person. I know nothing about that. So I will not. I will call a doctor. It's the same when you are running a country. People say, oh, educated people have not done anything. I say, if the educated people find it so difficult under the globalized system, if they find it so difficult to promote progress in the country, what about somebody who is not experienced, is not aware of certain dynamics? I don't, at my age, young man, I don't want to gamble. I don't want to gamble the destiny of my country. I entered the race. People said, a young man said to a cousin of mine, he was put in the race to take votes from Joseph Boga. Boga is my friend. I mean, if I wanted to get in the race to promote him, I would have joined his team. No, Boga is in the Unity Party. I've never been a member of the Unity Party. I respect him as an elder brother, but my politics is different. My politics has always been the politics of popular democracy. I've always been on the left of Liberian politics. My support for Madam Sally was because she was in the trenches with us. She put her life on the line. She went to prison. This woman was pushed around. And I strongly feel that yes, she has the experience and the passion to lead our country. So I supported her. And that's it. I think there were a few more questions. Oh, you say it is all right, it's all right. But let me zero in on this. To all these young people out there, this democratic space that has come into being, you are part and parcel of this democratic space. Be tolerant of the views of others. You know, by being rude, you do not promote yourself. If you think rudeness gives you the status of a celebrity, you're making a very sad mistake. It makes you look ridiculous. You can confront somebody if you have ideas, if you have read, and that is why the government under me will open up libraries all over the country so that people can go and read, get on the internet, find Wikipedia, study, and understand things. Because an enlightened people will make an enlightened and informed decision. Listening to rumors, getting drunk, abusive, doesn't help. No country in human history has developed without discipline. Discipline, discipline, and discipline. Vote for whosoever you want to vote for. It is your right. That is why we struggle. That is why we struggle. In order for our children today to be able to speak the minds without being intimidated. That's why we put our young lives on the line. Now we are old men and we still feel that we have a little to contribute. But I say to you all Liberians, you make your decision on October the 10th. Whoever you decide, my tax will be finished. I've used 30, 40 years of my life, not in government, but in advocacy. I've used that period. If you say, I'm not the person you want, like the man says, you are not the man for the presidency, I have alternative. I study. I can go and write some books so the younger generation will be able to read tomorrow. I have a lot of manuscript that I have not completed. There's so much for me to do. The presidency is not a life and death stuff. Be careful of men who look at the presidency as a life and death stuff. For them, it's not for me. I want to help. I want to transform Liberia. I feel that I have the passion, I have the dedication to do such. If you feel otherwise, good luck to you. God bless you.
Before we close the interview, would you be willing to share your thoughts with anyone, whether they look against the presidency, to share your ideas, share your perspective, your governance insight?
Yes, not to work, not to work with anybody. I'm finished. I passed that stage. That's why I want the presidency to be able to carry the transformation forward. It's not that I will want to give pieces of advice to individuals. I will write in the papers, If there are issues I must comment on, I will do it openly. I will do it openly. I will write like I did when I was in exile, writing on the Perspective website, writing on in other papers, etc. I will do that. It's my duty to always comment. But probably I will be so engrossed, I will be so busy in terms of writing my memoirs. I got to write my memoirs. I started the political struggle when I was 16, 17, going in my father's library, looking through his books. I became a disciple of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I was a great admirer of Modibo Keita, of Ojinga Odinga, of course, Julius Nyerere and others. So yes, I have so much, and I've been grateful. The brother asked whether I have any regrets of this struggle. No. If there was a life which was dull, I would not have enjoyed it. If there was a life which was peaceful, I don't think I would have been satisfied. If there was a life without risk, I do not think I would have understood the world as I do now. A life is meant to be lived for a man who is a revolutionary. Life is meant to be lived at a space whereby you feel the adrenaline flowing because you want your ideas to be accepted. I think I've been fortunate. Many of my comrades did not make it out. They perish. And for me to have lived to 68, I think God has been merciful. And I feel that, of course, yes, I've contributed a little, and in history, tomorrow, those who will write the history of Liberia will probably give me a little footnote. That he came, he was passionate, he served, he could have taken a different path, but he decided to struggle with the people. And for that, I'm grateful to the people who I feel have the intelligence, the understanding, the consideration to appreciate the little contribution I've made throughout my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fahnbulleh, presidential candidate of the Liberian People's Party. It's been a pleasure talking with you, guys.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here, and of course, in memory to my brother and friend Mamandi. I say, I hope you keep up the work and keep up this institution. To his memory, he was a good man.
Thank you. Okay, that's how we're going. My name is Matthew Young. I'm going to